Hey, what's good, you boys? It's your boy Gilly, and we're back with another video. Pretty much, this video is going to be about the time I got my Gucci hat almost taken off my head by a crackhead. But yeah, it was a pretty close call with losing a $450 hat, which I would have been cut as fuck about if I actually got it stolen. So pretty much, I got this hat at the end of last year as a present to myself for graduating high school. I'd been looking at this hat for a while. I'll put a picture up on screen of like what it exactly looks like so you can get a picture of it in your head. Like I said at the start, they're $450, so yeah, not the cheapest hat. But I never really wore hats until now, but I was like, if I'm gonna get a hat, I'm gonna do it right and get one of these hats. So I went, fuck it, and I bought it. So this story pretty much took place, I would say, about 3 days after New Year's, so January. I would say within the first week of January. I can't remember exactly the day. So pretty much the night started off as usual. I went to pick up all the boys and we're trying to suss something because we had nothing really to do. We found there was a couple other boys down at this little harbour. A usual weekend out usually involves eating MDMA or caps, whatever you want to call it. That's pretty much just how like my area works. That we pretty much eat MD like it's candy, and that's not a flex or anything. That is literally just saying how it is. There's a lot of characters in this video, but I'm only going to really highlight a couple that were in the car with me, because the others are really irrelevant to the story. And the bloke in the passenger seat, we'll go ahead and call him Albert, because he is in the Fortnite community, so I'm not going to say his gamer tag or his IRL name. That's just dumb. I don't think you'd want me saying that. Me and Albert were the only ones dropping on this night. The rest were just sinking billies and drinking piss. So I don't recommend driving while on MD, but if you're going to drive on any drug, I think, at least for me, MD is probably the easiest to drive on. You can just vibe to the music and you can really concentrate. But if you take too much, obviously it's going to be a lot harder to drive. But if you can handle your MD, driving on it isn't too bad. But once again, I'm not condoning the use of driving while under the influence. Just have to say that. Me and Albert just dropped just before we left, and we're going to like wait for it to kick in, because it usually takes about 15 to 20 minutes depending on if you've eaten anything, and I'm 90% sure I didn't eat anything all day, because that's usually what I do when I drop MD. If I eat before it takes a long time to kick in, and when it does kick in, it's really fucking strong, so I hate that. So I'll just not eat all day to stop that from happening. This drive was probably about 20 minutes, so we pretty much just dropped it, hopped in the car, started vibing music, and cruised the way down. If I could explain a come up to you the best way for those that haven't done caps, you're waiting patiently for it, nothing's really happening. You start to think, oh, it's probably not going to kick in, and all of a sudden you notice your heart start to race a little bit. It's called come up anxiety. It depends how much you take. The more you take, the more I think anxiety you get. But if you take 2 or 1, it shouldn't be too bad. Then again, I'm speaking on myself. It is different from person to person. So I'd say this cap started kicking in about 5 minutes just off getting out of the car. And when we finally rocked up there, it was not in full effect, but the come up was starting to really set in. And we got out of the car. I don't think it had hit Albert at this point, but it was coming on a little bit stronger. So we hopped out the car. And then we walked over to like everyone else, and they all had their lines out, and by coincidence, as we rocked up, they were reeling in a massive bunter shark. Like this thing, we didn't know how big the shark was yet, but when they pulled it in, I'll get to that in a little bit. This shark was fucking massive, and I'm not really a fisherman, but it was pretty wild. We go see the other boys that were actually fishing, and we noticed like they had a bunch of other people that we didn't know with them. And at this point, there was this one fella I started to notice who was a little bit more off chops. They were all drinking, but this fella, I don't know what he was on, but this guy was off his face, still making sense. He was still walking around, but he was acting like a complete like idiot, because we're all younger than him, and it was like hell showing off. And it's like this, he was legit like if I can put a picture in your head of what this guy actually looked like, picture Johnny Sins, but like nowhere near as toned and like alpha male looking. This guy was just like a stocky like crackhead version of him. Just picture that in your head, and that's pretty much what he looked like. So I have my Gucci hat on my head, not thinking much of it, and this guy takes notice of that, and he wasn't calling me by my name. He didn't ask my name or anything. He was just calling me Gucci, which I didn't at the time, since I'm beaming like harder and harder as each minute goes by. I didn't really care or take notice. I was kind of in my own little world. And then they fully got the shark onto up onto the sand, and then everyone was running around it getting photos, and this guy had nothing to do with reeling the shark in, but he was just loving the spotlight. He was like standing posing with the shark, and this bloke did nothing. That was kind of rubbing me the wrong way, but it is what it is. I'm not going to judge a person from taking photos with a shark. And at this point, I'm looking over at Albert, and we are just getting more and more off our faces. I can just tell we're like starting to space out. On MDMA, you get a little bit more talkative as you get used to the role, but as you're coming up, like I said, it gets really intense at some points. So we're kind of just looking off at the moon. I remember specifically saying, like, look at the moon. This is it looks crazy over the water, and it was like making weird patterns, but like MD isn't really a psychedelic, but if you take enough, sometimes it gets a little bit wacky. Walk back up the little rocks, and then I kind of get sick of standing, so I'm like, look, I'm gonna head back to the car and just kick back and listen to music, because let me tell you now, music is phenomenal when you're on MD. I can't explain it to someone that hasn't done it before, but let me tell you, if you're gonna drop, get a speaker or like some earphones and just vibe out to it. It's insane. Anyway, we're sitting in the car. Can't remember what we're blasting, but I'm pretty sure it was some rhythm or some shit like that. If you don't know what rhythm is, it's like a type of EDM, if I could best describe it. But I think most of you, because I think the 5 of you that are subbed and the 2 that dropped comments, I'm pretty sure you're all Aussies, so you probably know what rhythm is. Anyway, we're chilling in the car, vibing out. And now I don't smoke weed at all anymore, but I was having cones every now and then back then. My tolerance was pretty much 0 for bud, so I decided to rip a cone on the come up, which was probably not the smartest idea. And yeah, we're chilling, listening to music, and I could tell at this point Albert was really struggling. It looked like he was about to spew, like he was going legit pale in the face, because sometimes you do spew if the MDs help pure and your body rejects it. Anyway, we're still sitting there, and I've got another mate in the back. We'll leave him nameless. Anyway, he was just sitting in the back, and this bloke was the only one just seshing, and let me just tell you, he was stoned as, like, he was stuck, not saying much, just kicking back. We all know the feeling when you're extra stoned, just not saying much. And next minute, I see the Johnny Sins bloke. We'll just call him Johnny Sins, honestly. I don't want to give him a name. Johnny Sins, like Crackhead, that's what he's going to be called throughout this video. He rocks up to the window. Actually, as we were walking over to the car, he was naked in the car park. Anyway, kind of let that one slide. I was like, whatever, he's probably just a tweaker that likes to get naked around younger kids, it's whatever. So we're sitting in the car, and this bloke rolls up to the window. You could tell he was trying to just be a little bit, like, not show off, but he was just talking himself up. I was just in my own little world. I did not care about this guy's life, if I'm brutally honest. But yeah, he's like, pass me the aux, so I'm gonna play some old school bangers, because he could hear we were playing rhythm, and rhythm's pretty popular where I'm from. So he's like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna put some old school ones on. And it wasn't even rhythm, it was like house, and I don't really like fucking house music, if I'm honest. It's just a little bit too chill. But house just isn't it, to be honest. And he was playing house, and he was loving it. And I was, I was just bobbing my head just so he could get some satisfaction out of it, but I was fucking despising this music. It was shit. The music cut out or something. I don't know what happened, and he started blaming on me. I was like, oh yeah, the music's cut out. And he's like, yeah, I realized that. What have you done wrong? And I was just sitting there like, I don't know, it's probably falling out of your phone. And just keep in mind, I'm beaming at this point and stoned, so I can barely hold a conversation. Like, I'm beyond fucked up. And this guy's like having a go at me for messing up the music. And then I don't know what possessed him to do this. Obviously, he's a tweaker, a crackhead, whatever you want to call him, but he rapped and got me in a headlock. And sounds weird, but at first I didn't even register what was going on. I was just sitting there. About, I'd say 2 seconds after, it was kind of going in slow motion. I'm like, okay, this guy's trying to pull some sly shit here. And I realized what I had on my head. I had a Gucci hat on my head, so I ripped that off my head, threw it under the seat, and then just after that, the guy knew that he wasn't going to get to the Gucci hat, so he kind of backed up a little bit. And it was a little bit awkward because he didn't get what he wanted. I was kind of just looking at him. It was strange. And then, I shit you not, this guy backs up from the car and he's like screaming, come on, let's go. Like, I don't know if he was being serious. If I actually got out the car, if he would have had a scrap with me. I was feeling wobbly, wavy, wonky as fuck just on MD. I'm not going to hold a smash. Like, I know some people can get pretty angry on MD, but I just feel like a little hippie, like a little wavy. I could probably blow away in the wind, if I'm honest. And I'm not going to like talk up myself. He was just he was a lot shorter than me. I'm 6'2". I'd say he's probably like 5'10", 5'11", but he was stocky and like thick as fuck, if I'm honest. He would probably bowl me over. I'll openly admit that. And then he's screaming at us, like all of us in the car, like one of you, he was just offering all of us out, and no one's getting out because everyone's either stoned on MD or just like some random crackhead. We're not going to like just smash on with him. He realizes no one's putting up a fight, no one's going to have a scrap with him. And keep in mind, this guy's 40, he's not our age, he's like just a lot older than us, so it's looking really stupid on his end. And I shit you not, he walks up to the car and starts trying to rock the car, and it did start to rock at one point, and I'm just looking at everyone else in the car like, what are we witnessing right now? And Albert in the passenger seat is so out of it, he doesn't even realize what was going on. But like, I'm low-key shitting myself because on MD, it's pretty much all your emotions, but like heightened. So if you're extra sad, you're real sad, but you don't really get sad on it, at least I don't. If you have anxiety, you get really like anxious. If you're happy, it's like you feel like you're on top of the world. It's like everything times by 10. And then after that, he stops rocking the car and he comes back and he's like, starts to apologize. And I'm just sitting there not taking a bar of it, because I'm at this point, I'm not really coming up anymore. I'm starting to peak. Now I definitely know you can see my jaw starting to go ways. So he's starting to feel a little bit bad, I think. Honestly, I would have no clue. Then he leans back in the window, I don't know what for, and he spills his drink. I don't know, I think it was Woodstock. Probably not it, but it was a can or something. And it's like he spilt a little bit, but he like pulled it back up before it fully emptied in my car. And then he like mumbled out, I can fix that, or some dumb shit like that. And then he pulled out his packet of smokes and he offered me a smoke. When you're beaming, let me tell you this as well, not only is music phenomenal, but smoking literally anything, well, I don't like smoking weed too much, but especially smoking darts or backy cones or whatever is absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't done that yet, definitely try that. I'm not really going to tell you guys to do stuff, but you know, you didn't hear it here. Anyway, he gives me a smoke. And I'm thinking, oh, at least I got a free smoke out of it. And my hat didn't get ganked. So I kind of won out of that situation. That was probably not the best way to start this year 2020 off, but it definitely has gone downhill since then. You know, the world's in absolute shambles. But boys, if you're rocking with me, make sure you're dropping a sub. And I want to see each fucking person that's watching the video drop a comment. I want to see who is here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Make sure you're dropping a like, boys. Putting them notifications on. I don't want to be one of them YouTubers that just screams subscribe. But yeah, it would mean the absolute world if you're dropping a subscribe, because you know we're below 10. Like, if you want to be part of the absolute boys, then drop a sub. What are you losing out of it? I'm posting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so there'll be no lack of videos. And yeah, that's pretty much it. See you guys in the next one. DJ, run that tune.
Nina, you ready to go home? Fuck no. Yeah, we good. Yeah, we good.